as you know, NAIA is an umbrella organization for all species, and it isn't just dogs and cats that are endangered. We have other species that are facing issues too, and we're really excited today about our next presenter, Steve Duncan, who is president of the Aviation.
Birds fly.
Thank you. Well, they do fly. And admin of the faculty of Mount San Antonio College. Steve shares his passion for birds through aviculture and photography to inspire compassion for birds, both captive and wild. A lifelong bird watcher, he raised pigeons at 11, interned at the International Crane Foundation while earning a bachelor's degree in biology at California State Polytechnic University, and worked in the retail pet industry for 12 years before founding and operating a commercial bird farm, Avian Resources, since 1988. Steve is adjunct professor at Mount San Antonio College in the Pet Science program and runs 2 third-generation family businesses. Past president of the Agricultural Society of America, he is very active on legislative issues affecting the agricultural community, providing testimony to local, state, and federal government agencies. And Steve is going to be talking to us today about the Parrot Wars, propaganda and politics of parrot people. Please welcome Steve Duncan.
All right, great. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Wonderful opportunity. And in the words of Monty Python, and now for something completely different. Yeah. But as a biologist, actually, my favorite subject is genetics. So I've been having a ball here today listening to the talks. It's been fascinating to me. So it's definitely a joy to be here. And enjoy the other talks as well as to do my own. So today we're going to talk about Parrot Wars and who's involved in the Parrot Wars. What is this he's talking about here? Well, there are different groups, breeders, of which I primarily identify myself as a breeder of parrots and other exotic birds. There's rescue and sanctuary. So I'm sure most of the room here is dog, cat related activities, and you have rescue and sanctuary and shelter and all that stuff too. So some of this may come as a surprise to you, maybe not. We have many of the same conflicting interests. Shouldn't necessarily be conflicting, but we'll go through these. So you can see how much of this resonates with your own experience with the animals you deal with. Obviously animal rights activists, and John Q. Public. We all deal with these different groups, right, that are interested in the animals we keep and breed. And with the agricultural community, we're also dealing with conservationist issues, because we're dealing with native wild species, right? So we're dealing in species that exist in the wild, have conservation issues as well. And so we're going to look at how that also affects regulation and legislation. How does this conflict, this interaction between these opposing forces work? And mainly I'm concentrating on this particular Parrot War. We have a little Star Wars theme here. It can be a little contentious subject, so I do poke a little fun at it with the theme of Star Wars. And how is this propaganda war being waged that's actually destroying agriculture? So we'll see if this resonates with you as well. And sticking with the Star Wars theme, I will refer to the rescue and sanctuary community sometimes as the dark side. It's a fair warning. And this is not a blanket statement, I will tell you that. I also work very closely with a lot of rescues and sanctuaries. And like any large group, right, there's good and bad. So really, when I'm using the term dark side, you know I'm referring to the more extreme groups that are really have an anti-breeding agenda. So what is aviculture? You guys are all raising dogs, right? Cats and other things like that. Well, aviculture is primarily breeding birds for enjoyment, for profit. I run a business, a commercial bird farm. Okay. For preservation, as I mentioned, many of these species are still existing in the wild. Some of them are under significant threat in the wild. So breeding them in captivity also helps preserve those species that may be going extinct for various causes, and raising them for education as well. So how does aviculture affect conservation? Aviculture is conservation, is one of the kind of buzzwords we use to help promote aviculture in a positive light. And I'd like to show this slide right here because it's a great example. That's Ricardo Valentin, and that's a Puerto Rican Amazon parrot. Puerto Rican Amazon parrot was down to 50 birds at one point. And Ricardo happened to be an aviculturist. And the project to help save these parrots, there was a captive breeding program going on. And they were not having success with some of the birds, just not reproducing. And Ricardo took over the Puerto Rican government portion of the captive breeding program and basically took all these cast-offs, these birds that were misfits, weren't doing well. But Ricardo's knowledge with working with birds previously came into play. And he's been amazingly successful. I believe the flock is now up to somewhere around 500 birds, so about 10 times what it was. Over the past, I think, 10, 15 years, they've been able to achieve that. So that's a great example of aviculture in direct application for conservation. But I would also like to point out that it was really Ricardo's experience with the more common species that provided him with the skills that they could be applied. And that's a very, very important point. So aviculture is, of course, preserving species. It's husbandry techniques. It's advancing veterinary medicine, right? So if you have a robust avicultural community, people breeding birds, selling birds, trading them, it allows for vets to get involved and do additional research. You don't have that, you don't have the vets involved learning about the medical needs of the birds. And our pet birds are ambassadors also to the wild. Nobody cares what's happening to a thick-billed parrot until they really see a thick-billed parrot. And there are many, many different examples of that. So the further removed you get from having these birds in front of you, right, the less in touch with their plight in the wild. And I like to say there's no real reason not to practice aviculture, despite the negative propaganda and rhetoric that you may hear. And that's what we're going to go through here. And again, so you understand a little bit about my perspective. We went over a little bit of that in the bio. But I've been raising birds for well over 40 years. My interest also in photography and wild bird watching as well. So I'm in tune with the conservation side, with the Audubon Society, as well as obviously the captive side of things as well. And I have an appreciation for all those different areas and how they affect how we look at our birds in captivity. So why do I do this talk? Well, I see some of you nodding. I'm talking about the dark side, the anti-breeding rhetoric. So I kind of get a vibe that you probably get that aspect in this room. I just talk to lots of different people. So I'll be able to kind of skip over so that I won't have to dwell on it so much to make the point, because I think you guys get it, right? But there is a lot of misunderstanding, and that phantom menace, Star Wars theme again, right? How that affects public perception and therefore drives regulation in the end, and that's a big problem. And as I mentioned too, I already work secretly, and I'll explain why it's secretly towards the end a little bit more, with a lot of rescues and sanctuary organizations. I can't do it openly, they'll get attacked. We'll talk about that a little bit. When I do this talk, this is from the last time social media, we get some of the members of the dark side will see this, they may see it up on the web, as they did the last time, and then I get all sorts of these comments saying how horrible I am, and my breeding is the reason there is a dark side. It's my fault, because I'm producing birds that they then have to go rescue. If I wasn't doing that, they wouldn't be there. And I'm very condescending and demeaning. I'm an awful guy, and my facts are skewed. Okay, so I'm putting that all out there, and you can listen to this presentation and tell me if they're right or not. Okay? So what's the basis of the anti-aviculture rhetoric? Well, you've heard a lot of these buzz phrases before, haven't you? Right? There's an overpopulation crisis. Until there are none, adopt one. Don't breed, don't buy, adopt, all those things, right? If fewer birds were bred, there would be good homes for the rest of them. Breeding and selling birds is just exploitive and cruel, right? All these awful things. Parrots only belong in the wild, so that's a little bit different, I think, than a lot of the dog people, right? Dogs don't live in the wild. They still say it, they'll throw it, right? But simply with something like macaws and Amazons, right? They're in the wild right now, flying around, and there's no reason, they say, that we should have them in captivity. So we'll look at some of those arguments. And the last one is what I touched on a little bit with working secretly with them. The dark side thrives on antagonistic drama. Okay? And you'll notice throughout this presentation, you'll see text in orange versus text in white. So when you see something in orange, that's essentially something I've harvested off the web from the dark side. And the white is kind of my perspective. So when you're looking at the screen, you can tell. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the concept of overpopulation. We're talking about parrots here. So I'll let you decide, because I'm not a dog and cat expert. Actually, I think I get it, though. But I'll let you decide if there's really an overpopulation issue. Yeah.
Would you just tell us what kind of birds these are?
You're interested in those? Those are double yellow-headed Amazons.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's look at some numbers here. The only survey we can really go on reliably, I think, is the APPA survey. You guys know what the APPA is, American Pet Products Association? Yeah. Okay, they do a survey every 2 years. They're hitting the number at about 20 million pet birds in the U.S. So certainly a lot less than dogs and cats, but that's a significant number. The real number is probably higher because the APPA survey is only counting household pet birds. I have lots of birds, and none of them would be counted in the survey, right? Because they're all breeder birds, they're not pets. And there's a lot of breeder birds out there as part of the population. So the APPA number only includes household pets, and it is designed to track trends. It's the point of the survey. It's an industry survey. So if you're a pet products manufacturer, you want to know which segment of the pet products industry is growing or shrinking so you can adjust, right? Producing bird toys versus reptile rocks or whatever it is. Okay? So I had to bring the reptiles in. And so what does the survey say? It says pet bird numbers are slowly declining. Now, if you'd looked at those numbers a few years ago, you actually would have seen 17 million, and I was surprised that it went up to 20 million. But when I looked into it further, it's because they changed the survey to include backyard chickens. So that's become a segment of the pet industry, right? So if you're in the pet products business, you might want to start producing backyard chicken products, right? Lots of things. Okay. But the trend overall for pet bird ownership is slowly declining. About 85% of them are cockatiels, budgies, finches, canaries, small, short-lived species. And so if we take, suppose, an average lifespan of no more than 10 years, and this is when I'm talking to people who are really familiar with pet birds, they're thinking parrots. Well, parrots, you know, you always hear this, they live 75, they live 100 years. And we're going to talk about that. So one of the official databases we can look at, Dr. Clubb kept a record of the birds she saw in her practice, and these are some of the numbers she saw. So if you look at the maximum age over there, African greys, macaws, things like that are up there, 40, 50 years, but their average age, 15 for the tops, most of them 3 to 5 years, okay? Which is a lot shorter than you're probably used to hearing, if you hear anything about bird longevity. Well, those numbers are also supported by a study by the Department of Biology from New Mexico State University, where they looked at the ISIS data. ISIS is International Species Inventory System. That's what the zoos use to track their specimens and their collections. And that data set goes way back, decades, almost 100 years, I believe. And so some of the numbers they were seeing, if you look at the left column, those were the maximum lifespan. So right at the top, a Galah or a rose-breasted cockatoo, the maximum life they saw in their data was almost 73 years. So that's an old animal, right? The middle section shows you the data size and the average lifespan. So on that top line, you're looking at 1,800, almost 1,900 individual specimens, had an average lifespan of 2 years. That's pretty shocking. Okay? The right column is for those individuals that made it to 4 years of age. Then how long did they live? So you discard everything that doesn't make it to 4. Okay, so the average went up to 9 years, just over 9 years. So that's how that chart works. So you'll notice that right column, most things are, even eliminating everything under 4 years. Still, if you were to say average lifespan 10 years, you're in the ballpark, wouldn't you agree? Yeah, I mean, you're not far off. Even though in that left column, if you go to the second one down, Salmon Crested Cockatoo, 92.5 years is the oldest one. Okay? But again, average lifespan of just over 4 years, and average about 10. Okay? So another way to look at that, just looking at it in a scientific manner, is you have generally what are considered 3 types of survivorship curves. And we're all familiar with humans. We have a lifespan, average 70, 80 years, depending on what country you're from, maximum 120-ish. But it's extremely rare for somebody to hit 120, right? It happens apparently, but not often. And that middle one would be a straight kind of average die-off every year. They don't die faster, or more often it's young specimens as they get old. The bottom on the type 3 is what we're looking at with birds. So you see a very high drop-off in those early ages. Now you have to understand that, especially when we go back to that ISIS survey, the zoo survey, and it was really shocking to see an average lifespan for rose-breasted cockatoos of 2 years. Well, you have to understand that that includes every bird that hatched. Okay? So a lot of these zoos are letting the birds hatch and raise their own babies. Right? 1 hatches, 2 hatches, the second one that hatched doesn't compete, they let it die. That's a death at 0. Okay, now you start to understand this curve and why that average is only 2 years in that study. And that's why I think it's better to look at that right column where they hit 4 years. Okay, you eliminated all those really early deaths, and you've got an average lifespan of 10 years. So what people don't understand when you talk about average lifespans, again, you hear this a lot in the parrot community, if you buy a macaw, you're going to have to put it in your will, because it's going to outlive you. You hear that a lot. And it may live for 60 years, but the odds of it living for 60 are about like you living to 120, okay? The average is probably going to be around 10, 15 years. And I get people calling me up, say, oh, my African gray guy is only 15 years old, but I don't know what I did wrong, and they're just distraught. And I have to explain to them, 15 is, about average. You're okay, don't worry. You didn't do anything wrong. That's normal, okay? But I've heard they live to 60. Yeah, some of them live to 60, but most of them don't. So we have a kind of a bias at looking at population curves based upon the human one, type 1, versus type 3, which is actually what our birds display. So now if we look at that, with that in mind, if we wanted to keep the pet bird population stable at that 20 million number, how many would we need to produce each year? Well, another reason I chose 10, it's easy math, right? Okay, 20 million, but figuring an average 10% die-off to get your 10-year turnover rate, you have to produce about 2 million birds a year to put into the pet trade just to keep that population stable. That's how averages work, right? It's pretty straightforward. So that figure, again, does not include the birds that need to be produced to maintain the breeding population. So we actually need to produce more than that. Okay. Rescues claimed in the past that upward 5,000 to 8,000 birds per year are turned over to them, which they think sounds like a big number, but when you do the math, you know, let's take the higher figure of 8,000, that's only 0.4%, less than half of 8% of the birds produced every year, according to their numbers, are entering rescue and sanctuary. That's a tiny percentage. So, looking at it a little bit differently, if you listen to their argument and say, well, it's overpopulation, you're producing too many, apparently all we need to do is drop production by 0.4%, right? That's logical stuff, and that'll solve the problem, right? Well, no, you guys are already shaking your head. It doesn't work that way, right? Of course not. The percentage remains constant, really, how many get turned over. We'll look at why that is in a moment, okay? And the number of birds bred each year is actually declining. I'm a dying breed, okay? There's fewer and fewer people raising exotic birds. And yeah, production is dropping, and the prices are reflecting that in the marketplace as well. So certainly, overpopulation is not what's driving this issue. Okay? And I like to make silly comparisons. If we go outside and look at humans, and you can go to the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, and they say about 20% of all marriages have some sort of abuse, that sort of thing. Are we trying to solve that problem by reducing the population? It's kind of the same logic, right? Okay, so the logic just doesn't apply. So the counter-argument that I usually hear to what I just said is, well, not all failures are making it into shelters. And that may be true. So that 8,000 or less than 0.5% is only a fraction of the problem. So what birds are making it into shelters? Well, what I like to do is go out and harvest information from the dark side and see what reasons. And a lot of them have websites that cite these very things, so let's go through them. There's 13 reasons. Bird doesn't like a family member. Bird is aggressive or loud. Too expensive. Too many birds to care for. Yeah, not enough time. Messy or too much trouble. Moving, can't take the bird with you. Okay. Illness or allergies, and a lot of these will probably resonate with just about every other bird out there, right? Got a new baby, the bird's not compatible for whatever reason. I lost my job, I've got to downsize, I can't afford it, whatever. Right? Retirement, I want to retire, I want to travel. Can't take the bird with me. Okay? Older death. And marriage or divorce. That all sounds familiar, right? Okay, you've heard them all. What does any of that have to do with overpopulation? It doesn't have anything to do with it, does it? Okay? So why are birds giving up? I separated that exact list into 3 categories. The top one being behavior problems. Those macaws chewed through somebody's door. So that would be maybe a behavior problem. Really, that's a management problem. The second category is poor choices. Right? The owner does bear some responsibility, I think, for the choices they make. You think? Life changes. Moving, lose your job, illness. Many of these things you have no control over. You may have had the best of intentions and kept your pet for years and years, and something happens. We all know it. It can happen. So those are all things that are going to happen regardless of how many birds are put into the marketplace, how many are out there in pet homes. All these things are going to happen, and they're going to happen at about the same percentage rate no matter how many birds are out there. That's why you always end up with birds going in to shelters. So another way to look at it again is economics. How are prices affected by supply and demand? And in the parrot world, adult parrots actually hold quite a bit of value. Okay? So it's not like you have to give away your pet parrot. There are other reasons that people do that, which we'll go into, but you can sell an adult pet parrot for good money because there's demand for it. Okay? So that right there speaks to, you know, there not being an overpopulation issue. And there you go. Pet bird overpopulation is a myth. So the only way to really eliminate birds from going into rescues and sanctuaries is to eliminate pet birds, right? Or eliminate rescues and sanctuaries, right? That's not what I'm doing. So let's look at the next issue here. So if we have an epidemic of unwanted parrots, which is how it's usually portrayed, if overpopulation doesn't exist, why are pet parrots shelters overcrowded? A very small percentage of those 20 million is still a large number of birds, right? Okay? So it's a simple input versus outgo equation. So what's the input side? What are the pet owners experiencing when they need to rehome their pet? And this is where you get into a little bit of the dynamics of how this issue is happening. Okay? So people have a pet bird for however long they have it for, and for whatever of those any 13 reasons, they need to get rid of it. So what are they experiencing in that moment? And most people, right, I used to hear these stories when I was a kid. Somebody needed to get rid of a dog, and their parents always said, well, they found a farm out there where they can chase, right? You hear that same thing. This goes and lives on a farm now and chases rabbits. He's got a lovely life. And some of that is to alleviate guilt. The parents, I think, are doing it because they don't want to tell their kids the truth. But, you know, we want a romantic solution for what we see as failing our pets. Most pet owners really care about their pets, even when they have to get rid of them. They want to do the right thing. That's the motivation. So turning to a rescue or a shelter situation is kind of an emotional out for a pet owner. Rather than selling it, right? If I've had this pet bird for so many years, just put an ad out and sell it, it's so cold. It's like selling your kid. People don't want to do that. They want something better. So the motivation is just inherent already in a pet owner to want to find a feel-good solution. So that's why they turn to rescues and sanctuaries. So what's the outgo side of that shelter overpopulation issue? Because a lot of these shelters are actually overrun with birds. So what's going on there? We see they get birds coming in for these reasons. Well, again, you can go out onto the web, and granted, I picked an extreme example. This is an example of the adoption requirements from one parrot rescue. So let's go through them. No breeders, number one, so I'm already ruled out. Okay. So you can't own any other birds, this one says. Well, it's just kind of ridiculous. You want somebody with some experience, but this rescue thinks you should devote all your attention to this pet bird. You must live within 100 miles of our facility. I want to keep an eye on it. That it could be. The entire family must be in agreement to the adoption of a parrot. You must be willing to contribute your time to work at the shelter. The bird must like you prior to the adoption, and bonding with a bird can take up to 6 months. 6 months of free labor, depending on you, because it's not the bird's fault, it's going to be yours. Continue. Oh my gosh, it keeps going. Visits will be conducted prior to and after the adoption. The bird you wish to adopt must like you. They think that's important. They listed it again. Okay? A bond must be, oh my gosh, they're repeating themselves. It just keeps going. If for any reason, at any time you cannot keep the bird, it must be returned. So they're not really adopting it out, they're loaning it out to you. And you know, the bird's not yours, it's always going to belong to the shelter. You cannot sell, breed, or give this bird to a third party. Right? It's got to go back. Oh my gosh, it keeps going. Holy cow. An adoption donation fee is required. Right? Our goal is to provide a forever home, and we'll talk about that in a minute, for a parrot in need of placement. Our birds are flighted and are not caged. Most cage doors are kept open and the birds have their choice of staying in or out of the cage. Now you know why those macaws went under the door.
Now you know why they're too messy.
That's right, exactly. All right, we look for homes for these birds where they will be allowed the freedoms of being out of the cage as much as possible, and we prefer homes where at least one person works from home all the time. So you have a ready supply of birds coming in, and then going out, you have to meet all these requirements. So, yeah, I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, obviously, if that's the way it goes. They're not really working that hard to place the birds, is the problem. So, looking at it from our side, now where did we go wrong? So, where do breeders bear some responsibility? And actually, I think we do, especially in the past. I think things have improved over time. But one of our biggest issues with rescue and shelter birds are umbrella cockatoos, which there's a baby up there on top. And we produced a lot of those. They were the most commonly bred large parrot in the 80s and 90s. And breeders back then used to raise all they could and just sell them right out, too young and unsocialized. And these are incredibly emotional, complicated animals. And breeders failed them, I'll tell you that. Today, we don't do that so much, but in part because umbrella cockatoos have become one of the rarest birds raised in captivity today. In part because we screwed them up in the 80s and 90s, and we make horrible breeders now, because we didn't raise them properly. We didn't raise them properly to be breeders, and we didn't raise them properly to be pets. Now, we know better today, and I think some of the husbandry practices have been improved. We still have a lot of work to do. But some of these birds are still a problem today, and we need to make improvements in that regard. So basically, we can cross off the first three based upon overpopulation. Now let's look at how breeding and selling birds is exploitive and cruel. Okay. Do breeders exploit birds for money? Well, this is the example I always like to use, and I actually had a talk. Is anybody a school bus driver in here? I had a talk where somebody raised their hand. Yeah, well, I told them, you exploit kids who need a ride to school. How dare you expect to get paid because poor kids need to go to school, right? Most of us understand this in here, right? We have a lot of breeders and how much effort it takes to take care of our animals, whether they're birds or not, you know, and you deserve to be paid. Believe me, I'll be the first one to tell you that. Okay? Is it cruel to allow birds to just be birds? So that's an issue we have. You know, breeder birds, especially parrots, a lot of times are left alone. And we don't take them out and handle them and play with them and socialize them. They need to be just birds. They need to do what comes naturally to them. And you know, public perception now is that everything needs to be tame and pets and everything like that. And birds are not always like that. And we need to be open and honest about that. So is profit only a function of cutting costs in business? That's another thing we hear a lot. Well, if you're a breeder, you have to cut costs. So you're not going to provide what the birds need. You're just going to cut costs in order to make a profit. And anybody who understands animal husbandry knows you can't just cut costs and expect your animals to be healthy and productive. Not to mention, never mind animals, I run two other businesses that have nothing to do with animals. And you don't just cut costs to make profit in business, period. You have to invest in business, whether it's animals or otherwise. It takes money to create a profitable, low-functioning business. But people on the other side don't seem to understand that always. And what is the difference between an adoption fee and a price tag? Anyway, I get the feeling you guys. So in my industry or my community, we have birds that like to pluck their feathers. You've probably seen them. And well, They look like that guy there on the right if they're really bad, which is pretty sad. And there are lots of reasons for that. I could do a whole hour talk on that a little more, so we won't go into it. But suffice it to say that some of them are emotional, some of them are parasites, infections, injuries, allergies, the whole bit can cause that to happen. But one of the things we find is when something like this becomes available from maybe a breeder closeout, sometimes they'll auction off a whole collection of breeder birds. And the rescues and sanctuaries will show up there. And the prices for the plucked birds always skyrocket because all the rescues and sanctuaries are bidding them up. They want them for their poster birds. That's what brings in donations. Yeah. So who's exploiting the birds, right? Well, this is another example from another rescue sanctuary. If you want to turn over a bird to him, he's so awesome, you've got to fork over $30,000 with it if it's a Macaw. And he gets it. Thank you. Some people are stupid. He actually gets it, yeah. And you know what? This is where I depart a little bit with my breeder friends. Hey, if he can get it, fine. I mean, great. If he's that inspirational, I don't care what they pay him, and if he's doing a great job, whatever. Great, go for it. What matters to me is what he's saying about my side of the equation, right? And that's what this talk is really going over. So, forever homes, right? You hear about that one all the time, and it's a romantic notion. And it's great. You should acquire a pet responsibly, and I agree with the bottom line of that top need. Please do your research before adopting or buying a parrot. Absolutely. But it's funny, did you know a parrot can on average goes through 5 homes before either dying or finding a forever home? And then the other ones that are out there say 7 years. I mean, they just pull numbers out of thin air. There are no studies that show how many homes a pet bird goes through. So they make them up and use them. So what really matters though, do parrots suffer when going through a new home? These birds obviously sometimes live very long lifespans. So it's reasonable to expect that they may have to have a serial bunch of homes, right? What's the big deal with that? Well, as the biologist in me and bird watcher type of person, I look at what's happening in the wild. So that's a photo of a wild Amazon roost. Wild Amazons roost in the non-breeding season, the winter. They'll gather in these large communal roosts, sometimes thousands of birds. In the breeding season, they disperse out, and they have their little breeding territories, and they're more solitary. And every year they come back together again in the non-breeding season. And those roosts vary. They could be 5 miles away next year. They don't have permanent homes in the wild. They don't. They fly around, they forage. They have home territories that may be dozens, even 100-mile radius that they can cover throughout a season. But none of it's a permanent home. They move around. That's what they do in the wild. So why is it a big deal if a parrot lives for a few years in one home and then it has to live in somebody else's home? What really matters is the care that's being provided to it. There's nothing tragic about it changing homes. And, you know, some of our pets can get very attached to us. And I've taken in lots of pet birds that were very attached to their owners and didn't want to leave as I'm, taking them out the door. And I put them in the car and I drive home. And I get home and they're like, cool. I forgot about them already. While they're there, they're like attached. But as soon as you remove them from that, it's time to move forward. Okay? And they don't forget. I'm not telling you that that prior relationship didn't matter. You can bring that owner back years later and the bird will recognize them. Absolutely. But I can tell you, as long as that prior attachment isn't there, the birds don't care. They're off doing whatever they're doing now. And I think most animals are like that. So the statistical reality is that about 99.5% of parrots are actually living very happily in their homes, if you take that data set from the overpopulation, right? So rounded off to 99.5. And it doesn't matter whether it's the first home or the seventh home. What matters is the care it's receiving while it's there. So another criticism we get as breeders, we don't provide enrichment. The top picture is kind of a typical parrot cage you see nowadays, which is actually great. Back in the 80s and 90s, we didn't see that many toys in parrot cages. Today, that's typical. I've seen cages so full of toys that one bird could almost not move around. Maybe a little more space would be nice. But it's great that they give them a lot of toys. The middle picture there is one of my breeding sections where I raise my green cheek condors, small parrots. And you can see it's a breeding facility. It's very commercial, very uniform. It's designed that way so I can provide efficient care for hundreds and hundreds of birds. There's one pair in each cage. And they don't have all these plastic bells and baubles and things like that hanging in there. And the typical pet person looks at that and goes, oh, he's an evil breeder. He's not providing enrichment. Because they don't understand, number one, that the mate is probably the best enrichment that bird can have, right? It's filling that biological need. But there's very simple design qualities of that setup that provide enrichment and a flock situation. The birds can communicate back and forth. At the bottom there, you see little white trays and that little feeder holder there. Those are actually paper trays. So I give them their fresh goodies every day. They eat them, and then they pull out the paper and they shred it up. So it's not a colored, leather bell thing up there hanging on their cage. To the bird, though, that's enrichment, and it's provided every day. So there's lots of other ways to do it. And again, that's a whole other talk that can go into that. But what looks like enrichment to a pet person is not always the same as what it is to a breeder like myself. They look very different. We also get criticized for locking them up in their cages 24 hours a day, not letting them out to play. I can tell you those birds don't want to come out and play. They become very territorial when they're mated up, starting the breeding process. Right? They don't want anything to do with me. In fact, that's one reason I set it up efficiently, so I can get in there, take care of them, and get out and leave them alone. They don't want me. They're stressed out while I'm in there. They want to be left alone. But pet people don't understand that, and we've got to do better at getting that message out to them. Providing proper care and enrichment cuts into breeder profits is what they say, right? We've already covered that. And the bottom picture there, I just want to point out, that's a wild pair of double yellow-headed Amazons. They're playing with each other. That's the enrichment. They have each other. You don't see any bells and baubles hanging off those branches, do you? They're playing and hanging and doing what comes natural. And as a breeder, that's what I try to provide for my birds. It looks very different than a pet situation, but it's what's appropriate and provides for the needs of the birds. So where did we go wrong in this issue? Aviculturists do need to recognize that there are substandard facilities. One of the first things that I usually hear from my size whenever there's a confiscation or something is it's always wrong. And most of the time it is to confiscate. I much prefer to solve the shortcomings in the husbandry in situ, right? Let's correct them while the birds are there. If it's really bad, take them out. But breeders oftentimes just automatically say, no, there's no such thing as a substandard breeding facility because the birds simply won't breed if they're not taken care of properly. Well, birds will breed in substandard conditions. They won't breed for long. Okay? But people get into it uneducated and uninformed and set up birds in inappropriate enclosures and inappropriate diets. And again, it may last a season or two, and then they're a problem. So, breeding and selling birds exploitive and cruel, we dealt with that one. So let's look at this concept that parrots only belong in the wild to be free. So they're beautiful, and we see inspirational images like those birds flying through the skies. So what's really happening out there? Well, in some cases, the wild is disappearing. You guys know that, okay? And what does it mean to be free? And is life in the wild as romantic as it is portrayed to be? So another study I like to cite on wild galahs, remember the very first line on the overpopulation slide was on galahs. And in the wild, Ian Rowley says, or found out that about 90% of them die the first year in the wild. Okay? That's normal. Average life expectancy in the wild is about 3 years. This is for that bird that can live 70, 90, possibly, right? And some do go that long, but they're, the 120-year-old humans. It's very, very rare. But average life expectancy, 3 years for a wild galah. Habitat destruction, you've seen it all over. This is, just go on Google Maps. That's the Amazon basin. So a lot of it is still pristine. That's the Amazon towards the top of the screen there. But you can see development coming in from the south there, and it's swallowing up habitat. So what else happens in the wild? Predation, starvation, fighting, no veterinary care, feather plucking. This is another one that is always thrown at us, that birds don't feather pluck in the wild. They do all the time. I have pictures of it, lots of them. Okay? But we don't often see birds feather plucking in the wild. I went out and happened to take that picture unexpectedly. They got flushed from a tree, and I saw that one there all plucked. So I went back to the frame before where they were all sitting in the tree, and there's actually 4 plucked birds in there, in that group of about 20. And I never would have known it. So they're out there, we don't always see it. Right? So they have to deal with predation. Nothing eats a macaw, they say. Yes, you get eaten in the wild all the time. And I show this to pet bird groups because they don't understand this. So there's a nice ringneck parakeet making dinner for a family of peregrine falcons. That's life in the wild. Snakes, cute little squirrels love to invade the nest. Cats.
I got my cat.
Yeah. Things like honeybees, they'll invade nests and take them over and kill what's inside. So there's injury and disease in the wild. We don't often see it again. I just happened to notice that after I got the photo home. Put it on my computer, but that one flying right on the side of his cheek is a big sore chunk of renewed flesh. That bird is not long. Nobody's going to take him to the vet. He's going to be hawk food or owl food within a day or two. Right? That's life in the wild. So hand rearing this, we have to deal with a lot as well. So in the parrot raising community, mostly we're pulling babies out of the nest. I do it about 2 weeks and I hand rear them. So they're nice and tame. Let the parents rear them, they're pretty wild and crazy. Okay? But we get criticized for how we take care of them. And that's a wild Amazon nest, not the cleanest thing you find. And that's what it looks like after those are babies that are just about ready to leave the nest. They're about 3 months old. And they're packed in there. And that's what's normal for these birds. Okay? These are hyacinth macaws in a wild nest. It's an artificial nest for wild birds. But they typically lay 2 or 3 eggs. This one hatched all 3. I can tell you the oldest one there is the one they're going to raise. The other 2 they're going to ignore and they'll die. That's what happens. Okay? That's what the bottom of the nest looks like after a couple of months. Full of roaches, full of feces. Most of those are palm nuts that have been passed through their digestive system. So we have video of the care they receive by the parents in the wild. Lots of researchers now have videos set up in wild nests. And you can see how much time the parents are spending with them and taking tender, loving. Uh-oh. So that was a barred forest falcon. Okay. So they wait, when they find a nest, they wait outside, they watch the parents. When the parents fly off to forage, and they wait until they're way out of sight, the barred forest falcons will fly right in there and have dinner. So they'll just eat the baby macaws. That's life in the wild. There's a Piscatee chick under the wing there. That's a botfly larva. Some populations have big issues with botflies. So wild rearing is, certainly has its challenges. I think we do pretty good in captivity. I don't think it's fair to say that we're not providing care appropriate for the species. So the fact is that life in the wild is a race for survival, and eventually every bird loses that race. And the end is never pleasant. That's life in the wild. So we should be honest about nature. Okay? It's not all Bambi. So our birds are designed for life in the wild, and that life is harsh. And that's not an excuse to be neglectful or abusive of birds in captivity. They endure way more challenges and pain and all that stuff in the wild than they do in captivity. I just want us to be honest about the comparison. So where did we go wrong? Well, you guys are probably familiar with that. We're out of touch with nature is one of the biggest things. So I'm going to skip over a bunch of this because we're running short on time. And there's a certain rescue and sanctuary mentality, the martyr complex. You guys probably understand a lot of this stuff already. Okay? But one of the strongest forces is being opposed to a perceived evil. So the breeders are the evil, in other words. Okay? So we are the people that they're fighting against, and that's what draws attention for them and donations. And one of the final points that I want to make regarding this issue is the concept of what I call rescue discipline. Anti-breeding rhetoric is enforced through group cohesion and discipline. When any rescue finds out that another rescue might be talking to me quietly, they are attacked by the rescue community. It's vicious what happens to these people. And that's why I'm very quiet. I won't say who I deal with. It's just not worth it. So all of that drives PR, public perception of birds in cages. And we're getting further and further away from accepting just the image of a bird sitting in a cage. And we don't really keep birds in cages the way we used to decades ago. We provide much larger enclosures for them, lots more enrichment. But this whole concept of captivity is just in the public perception has really swung far away from that being even remotely acceptable to have birds in captivity. And that's becoming a greater challenge for regulatory reasons. And the rescue community needs the enemy. We are that enemy. And part of the reason for that is that we're not doing a good enough job getting out and showing the public what we do and showing the facts. And I would like to urge everybody to take every opportunity I can. That's why I started teaching at Mount Set. I don't need another job. But it's my chance to get in there and start influencing. They're primarily veterinary technicians who are taking this program. So I at least try to put this information out so they can take that forward with them in the veterinary community and therefore help the public that's also coming in as well. So we need to cut it off there. So I will do that. Is there any questions? Yeah.
When they are done breeding, can they be successfully turned into a pet, or what do you do?
Yeah, most birds that were formerly pets that were then put into a breeding program, those are they're wonderful pets. It's like nothing ever happened. I have a lot of birds that were never pets. And an advanced age bird that ages out of breeding like that, I would not want to tame and force into a pet situation. It's too stressful for the bird. I have a whole retirement flight. I have lots of retired birds, and I keep them. Yeah. I
teach a companion animal science class at Rutgers. Can I have your presentation?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Is it in print and available?
Well, I have a PowerPoint, just contact me and I will send you one now. Yeah, I'll let you, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, well, first, now I know who we could blame for all the birds eating all the food in our backyard. But one of the things that I hear that is driving people against the pet parrot population is in San Dimas, you have your nice established fruit trees that you've had for decades, and you're just about ready to pick a crop and fly out in your backyard, and there's a bunch of wild parrots stripping your trees.
Yeah.
And some of us find it amusing, but some people, they really buy into this because they just really feel it's
Yeah, and the wild parrots, again, that's a whole other talk, but the wild parrots are not escaped pets. They were birds that were originally imported from the wild back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. In California, they've been established since the 50s. And they're multiplying. They're wild birds that were imported for the pet trade, but they were never tame pets. They escaped or were never tamed at any rate. So they have the skills of survival. If you take a pet bird and try to release it, its chances of survival are almost nil. But those wild parrots are definitely causing damage to backyard fruit trees and
But
things like
they
that.
are the ambassadors for
They are.
rescue groups.
Yeah,
Because they're, I mean, if you feel like you're in the Amazon jungle.
yeah. Yeah, the picture that you saw of the Amazons at the roost site, there's a roost near Pasadena that during the height of the winter roosting season will have upwards of 3,000 parrots in a residential block. Yeah, it is really loud. And the fascinating thing is, most of the people there think it's pretty cool. And there's a few that don't, as you can imagine, with that many birds in your neighborhood. But it moves around. That's the thing. It doesn't stay in one spot. So they'll have it for a year or two, and then it moves elsewhere.
Well, now that I find out that I'm a peer of yours because I have backyard chickens. But what was the driving force to include chickens?
Mainly, again, because that's a pet industry survey. So they want to know what segment of the pet industry is growing and what isn't. And the backyard chicken movement is growing.
It is growing.
And so there's opportunity there to produce feeders, to produce nests, right? Right, coops, whatever. So there's a product opportunity that they can be making. So that's when it started.
Sorry, I hate to cut this off, but we must, you'll be here for dinner?
I will do.
Okay, good. So if you have any more questions, you could